Good morning. This is Debbie Royce, Acting Secretary for the USA Niagara Development Corporation. I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's meeting. And before we formally begin, I would ask that everyone please mute your phone unless you are speaking. We'll begin today by taking a roll call of the directors to ensure we have a quorum present on the line. Please be so kind as to say present when we call your name. Francine Del Monte.
Present.
Paul Nanula.
Present.
Michael Williamson.
Present.
Thanks so much, everyone. Chair Del Monte, you have a quorum and you can begin.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm calling to order the meeting of the directors of the USA Niagara Development Corporation for Monday, July 27th, 2020. Please mute your phone until you are ready to speak. Also, for the record, if you wish to speak, please state your name before speaking. I'd like to note for the record that due to public health concerns and as authorized by an executive order of the governor, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I will also note for the record that the public has been given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments at or before 9 a.m. today to USA Niagara, bm@esd.ny.gov. I'd like to further note for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to the items on the agenda. If so, I would ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will be sure to that you recuse yourselves from any discussion or vote regarding such item.
None.
Hearing none, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the January 30th, 2020 and March 25th, 2020 directors' meetings. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions on either set of meetings? If not, may I have a motion for approval of both sets?
Board Member Williamson, motion to accept.
Can I get a second?
Paul Nanula, seconded.
There are no opposed. Thank you. The motion carries. I'm now calling upon Anthony Velardo to present an item relating to a request for the adoption of revised procurement guidelines. Anthony, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairwoman Del Monte and directors. Thank you for joining us today. The second item for your consideration this morning is the adoption of the revised guidelines for the use, awarding, monitoring, and reporting of procurement contracts. On March 26, 2020, the ESD Board of Directors adopted the guidelines which set forth the policies and procedures to be followed by ESD and its subsidiaries, including USA Niagara, when seeking to contract for goods or services. It is required that each Empire State Development subsidiary approve its own procurement guidelines in terms virtually identical to the proposed 2020 guidelines, with any departure therefore being fully explained by the subsidiary board. Accordingly, the USAN directors are asked to approve the proposed 2020 guidelines. One deviation from the 2020 guidelines adopted by the ESD board that we are recommending is the approval of contracts over $250,000, which the ESD board recommends. We are recommending that it is appropriate to lower that threshold to $150,000 and not the $250,000 reflected in the 2020 guidelines. This will permit the corporation to efficiently approve and move contracts forward, but provides appropriate oversight of contract review by the USA Niagara Board. The proposed 2020 guidelines are intended to be user-friendly and set forth in a logical and coherent fashion that will assist staff in understanding the procedures and be followed by substantive rules that govern procurements. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this particular item. I'll now entertain a motion for approval. I'd like to remind you to please state your names before speaking.
Board Member
Go ahead.
Williamson, so moved.
Nanula, seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Anthony, please present the final agenda item relating to, among other things, a request for authorization to amend the management agreement with Spectra Venue Management.
Thank you, Chairwoman Del Monte. Directors, as you know, the corporation is the owner and developer of the Conference Center and Event Center, Niagara Falls, otherwise known as CCNF. And we first contracted with Global Spectrum, previously doing business as Spectra Venue Management, or Spectra, in January 2009 to operate CCNF for the term of 5 years. On December 16, 2013, we were authorized, the board authorized USAN to enter into a 5-year agreement with 2 one-year extensions. The second of the 1-year extensions was set to expire on December 31st of this year. We had planned to release an RFP this spring to procure CCNF OFS management services with a term starting January 1st, 2021. Unfortunately, due to the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic, procurement of a new operator during these extremely unfavorable market conditions was not viewed to be in the best interest of the corporation. Events, as you know, this year at the Conference Center on Old Fall Street have been canceled, and new business for 2020 is not currently being booked, and events are being scheduled beyond this year, which are still in jeopardy. With no revenues being generated, employee furloughs have become necessary and other cost-saving measures have been enacted. In addition, in order to pay the continued operating expenses during these unprecedented times, the corporation has reallocated $310,000 of our capital funding available in the 2020 fiscal year to oversee operating expenses for this year. That was something that was part of the board materials in the March meeting. On June 18th of this year, the Empire State Development Board approved our request for a single source exemption to the New York State Contract Reporter Procurement Advertising requirement to extend an existing operations agreement for the term of 1 year. Spectra is the preferred single source that can effectively provide the requested services for the 2021 calendar year. Pursuant to state finance law section 139-J and 139-K and the corporation's policy related to, staff has considered the proposed contractor's ability to perform the services provided and consulted with a list of officers determined to be non-responsible bidders who have been debarred, offered, maintained by the New York State Office of General Services. Based on the foregoing, the staff considers the proposed contractor to be responsible. Also, the CCNF and OFS budgets for 2021 will remain subject to your approval before the start of our fiscal year in advance of the first quarter for the 2021 funding of $250,000 was previously approved by the Board of Directors in March of 2020. An amendment to the management agreement for the term of 1 year, January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. It is expected that the agreement will be amended to segregate any revenues generated from liquor and liquor sales, which will allow Spectra instead of USAN to be named on any liquor license needed to operate the facilities. These funds generated from these sales will be used for the facility operations, and as such, the revisions will have no effect on the finances of the facility. And lastly, it's kind of ironic here that we're asking you to do this. On March 21st of 2019, the board approved a capital budget for CCNF and OFS. The combined operating and capital budget was $1,348,424. Due to the phenomenal performance last year at the conference center, Spectra waived its receipt of fourth quarter funding from the corporation. However, due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and current economic conditions, to avoid a negative cash flow at the facility, we are recommending distributing that 2019 fourth quarter funding, which amounts to $222,954 this year. Additionally, Spectra has on hand a total of $36,101 in capital funds, which were previously approved for grout repairs on Old Fall Street, and has also recommended that these funds be redirected to support the current operating costs. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions or comments regarding this item? There is a bit of
no questions.
We do not have any comments.
No questions.
Oh, thank We don't have any comments from the public regarding this item, and I'd like to entertain a motion for approval. And please, again, I remind you to please state your names before speaking.
Board Member Nanula approves. Motion to approve.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Anthony, please present the final agenda item relating to, among other things. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I apologize.
You almost gave me a heart attack, Chairwoman.
I'm sorry about that, Anthony. I wasn't scrolling down. Well, the motion does carry regardless, and there is no further business. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Nanula, motion to adjourn.
Williamson, second.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. It's nice talking to you all. I know we can't see each other, but I hope everyone is well.
Yes, have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you,
care
Anthony and Debbie.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.